In the 8th year of our marriage, it was the first time Han Ye-shen had ever given me a handbag. It wasn't until the payment was being processed that I realized he had already become a VIP customer at the store. For a while now, I had casually asked him who he could possibly have been spending that much money on to reach such a level. He only answered vaguely that those were gifts for clients in his business relationships. Later, I saw an entire cabinet full of Hermes handbags in my elder sister's apartment. She frowned slightly, her voice carrying a hint of annoyance. It was him who insisted on giving them to me. My son affectionately hugged her arm and asked an innocent question. "Why aren't you my mommy?" It was only much later that I learned the truth. It turned out he and my sister had once shared a deep, passionate relationship. It was only because she couldn't have children back then that she stepped aside and played matchmaker between us, but now she regretted it. My mother also advised me that forcing a relationship could never bring true happiness and told me to let go early to lighten my heart. Looking at them standing united against me, I suddenly laughed and nodded decisively. "Fine, I'll let go. I'll play matchmaker for the two of you and turn you into a tragic pair of doomed lovers." On the day of my 30th birthday, after having dinner with me, my husband suddenly took me shopping and chose a pale gray Hermes handbag for me. In the past, I had always felt these luxury handbags were ridiculously overpriced, mostly just the brand name talking. But thinking this was a rare thoughtful gesture from him, a sweet warmth inevitably rose in my heart. It was only when it came time to pay that I discovered he had become a VIP customer at the store. Although I myself didn't care much about such things, many of my friends were shopping enthusiasts, so I knew that to become a VIP at that store, you had to spend at least $1 million a year. I didn't buy them. Han Ye-shen wasn't someone who chased luxury either. So how could he possibly have reached the spending level required to become a VP customer? The moment we got home, I couldn't hold back anymore and asked him directly who exactly that money had been spent on. Han Ye-shen kept his calm expression as he looked at me and said, "Gifts for clients in business relationships. Everyone likes receiving these things nowadays." I unconsciously wanted to ask a few more questions, but he suddenly showed irritation. He tossed the handbag roughly onto the sofa, furrowed his brows, and lit a cigarette. Just as he was about to take a deep drag, his gaze landed on my slightly protruding belly. In the end, he only stubbed the cigarette out forcefully in the ashtray, his voice full of exhaustion. "Xia Qingyi, I'm tired too. The company has so many things to handle. Stop overthinking like this. It's not good for the baby." It turned out he still remembered I was pregnant. We were about to welcome our second child, yet he could still be so heartless. Han Ye-shen and I had known each other for 10 years and been together for 9. Those long years had made us understand each other so well that we could guess the other's thoughts without a single word. His anger didn't lessen my suspicions. On the contrary, it made me even more certain that cracks had truly appeared in this marriage. The company was something the two of us had built together. For easier management, we had set up clear accounting from the very beginning, with every expense meticulously recorded. Client gifts were categorized under entertainment expenses. As long as I checked the purchase records for this year, everything would become clear. Although I had gradually stepped back to focus on the family and children lately, I still held a certain voice in the company. Not long after, the finance employee Shio sent me the detailed breakdown of entertainment expenses for the past few years. I carefully examined each item one by one. In the past, the company rarely bought Hermes as gifts. Most were famous wines, premium cigarettes, or some top-grade teas and shopping cards. But starting from June this year, a series of Hermes purchase orders suddenly appeared in the books. At first glance, it seemed reasonable, but if you calculated each one carefully, you'd find that most were just silk scarves, small accessories, perfumes, and only occasionally 1 or 2 basic line handbags. That amount of money couldn't possibly reach the spending threshold to become a VIP customer. My heart slowly sank. I had always believed we were a peaceful and happy family of 3, but now it seemed everything had just been my own imagination. Not long after I checked the accounts, Han Ye-shen suddenly called, his voice cold and angry. "Xia Qingyi, are you investigating me? Do you suspect me that much?" Hearing that, my heart grew even colder. If he hadn't reacted so strongly, I might have still thought I was overthinking. But his attitude right now only made my suspicions clearer. I clenched my fists tightly, nails digging deep into my palms. Yet I didn't feel the pain at all. I only asked back in a very soft voice, "What am I investigating you for? Where exactly do I suspect you?" The other end fell silent for a moment. After a while, he tried to sound calm, his voice somewhat forced. Isn't it nothing? Why are you suddenly checking the company's books? Are you too bored at home and looking for something to do? I had never imagined that the husband, who had built the business with me step by step, would one day speak to me like that. After giving birth to our son, I hadn't initially planned to leave work. It was only when Han Xian was 3 or 4 years old, with his frail body constantly suffering from high fevers and colds, that the little boy would clutch my clothes tightly, tears welling in his eyes as he begged me not to leave. My heart softened so much that I couldn't bear it. To take better care of him, and so that Han Yeshen and I wouldn't have to rush back and forth between home and the company, I gradually reduced my outside work and stepped back to hold down the fort for our small family, allowing him to focus entirely on the company. But in just 2 short years, in his words, I had become a housewife with nothing to do and too much free time. The hand holding my phone trembled slightly. I tried my best to hold it in, the emotions surging in my chest. Why can't I check the company's books? Is the company yours alone? Why does checking the books suddenly mean I'm suspecting you? I paused for a moment, my voice growing even colder. Han Yeshen, I said, are you confessing something? Confessing what? He immediately retorted, his voice full of irritation. Xia Qingyi, what kind of nonsense have you been taking lately? Thinking wildly all day long. I don't even know what to do with you. He spoke very quickly, his tone laced with some reproach. After finishing, he sighed as if utterly helpless. If you want to check, then check. It's your right anyway. The call ended abruptly, something I hadn't expected. That very afternoon, he surprisingly ordered a huge bouquet of pink roses for me. He said he'd been too busy with work lately and had unintentionally neglected me. I stared coldly at the bouquet of roses delivered by air freight. Dewdrops still clung to the petals, and all I felt was an indescribable sense of mockery rising in my heart. In the past, he had told me he didn't like doing such meaningless things. Life was just about food, clothing, and daily necessities. The daily grind of paying bills and putting food on the table. Fresh flowers were nothing but merchants' tricks. That was why, throughout all the years we'd been together, he had never proactively bought me flowers, unless I asked first. Perhaps at the beginning it was because we were financially strained, but what about the years after? Did that mean, in his eyes, I wasn't worth even that little bit of effort? How ridiculous that now he was proactively ordering flowers for me. The reason was simply to appease me, afraid that I would discover his affair. So was the handbag he suddenly bought for me today, also because he had bought too many for that other woman and, suddenly feeling a pang of conscience, conveniently picked one up to placate me. That evening, the house became chillingly cold. The place where our family of 3 had lived for many years now seemed covered in a layer of oppressive silence that made one uncomfortable. The housekeeper had left after preparing dinner. My son, Han Xian, was at my elder sister Xia Royun's house playing and hadn't come home for several days now. Han Yeshen called to ask if I had eaten dinner yet. He repeated the familiar words of concern as always. Qingyi, don't overthink it. It's not good for the baby. Once I finish handling work, I'll come home to be with you. I didn't reply. The phone remained on the table. I stood up and quietly turned the air conditioning in the house higher. Perhaps because the house was too spacious, I always felt cold. I couldn't even remember how many nights recently I had eaten dinner alone. When we were still living in a rented room less than 100 square feet, I had never felt this way. Back then, we didn't even dare turn on the air conditioner. Just by hugging each other, it seemed like we could overcome any hardship. Han Yeshen's voice on the other end grew more anxious. Qingyi, Xia Qingyi, are you listening to me? The temperature in the room rose quickly, but my heart remained empty. I was a little dazed. The voice from the phone rang out again, this time with clear urgency. Qingyi, what's wrong? Xia Qingyi. I'm fine. Just a bit tired, I said. All right then. I didn't listen to what came after and directly hung up. If he truly cared about me, truly worried for me, how could he do such things while I was still pregnant? How could a person change so easily? In this world, who could I trust anymore? My gaze fell on the Ultraman toys placed on the living room shelf. Suddenly, I missed Han Xian terribly, the child I had carried for 10 months, giving birth in pain. He was my flesh and blood, the person closest to me in the world besides Han Yeshen. I had once thought he was the one I was closest to on this earth. I opened the wardrobe, put on an extra coat, and drove out to pick him up. Since becoming pregnant, my body had always been tired and lethargic, and I didn't want to go out much. That was why it had been over half a year since I'd last visited my sister's place. As soon as the door opened, she seemed very surprised to see me. Han Xian was sitting in the living room playing games. I watched for a while, irritation rising in my heart, and called out to him. Han Xian, how long have you been playing games today? Have you been playing like this the whole time lately? He didn't even move, only lifting his head to glance at me with a face full of displeasure. So annoying. It's vacation, and mom's still controlling me. Don't I have any freedom? His eyes had already started showing signs of nearsightedness, which was why I had strictly limited his screen time. But at this moment, I only felt a wave of anger surging in my head, choking me until I could barely breathe. Was everyone in this house, from adults to children, such ungrateful people? Han Xian, come here. Who do you think your mother is? Is that any way to speak to me? Han Xian didn't reply. He turned his back to me, and continued playing as if he hadn't heard a thing. Before I could say more, Xia Qingyi stepped forward and blocked me, her voice gentle as she advised, Qingyi, he's still young. Why are you being so hard on a child? Kids need their own space too. For a moment, I was at a loss for words. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down, intending to take Han Xian home and teach him slowly. But after just a few steps, my gaze suddenly stopped at a corner of the living room. At some point, a large frosted glass cabinet had been added there, styled exactly like the luxury display cases in stores. Inside was an entire collection of Hermes handbags. I looked at my sister in shock, my heart filled with surprise and curiosity mixed with a vague unease that only a woman's intuition could sense. She avoided my gaze, rubbing her hands together lightly, her expression a bit embarrassed. My boyfriend gave them to me. In my mind, the thought immediately connected to how Han Ye-shen had suddenly become a VIP customer at the Hermes store. I froze for a second, not yet fully regaining my composure, when I heard Xia Qingyi add, her voice carrying a hint of shyness. I told him it wasn't necessary, but he insisted on giving them. This time, as our eyes met, a flash of arrogance and barely concealed challenge seemed to appear in her eyes. I didn't know if I was overthinking or misreading, but the warning bells in my heart had already rung. I could only pretend not to notice and continue asking calmly, when did you start dating? Not long ago. Then arrange for me to meet him sometime. She paused for a moment, then smiled faintly. Soon enough. I looked straight into her eyes and asked one more question. Does that person have a wife? Him. What do you mean by that? Xia Qingyi immediately flew into a rage. Xia Qingyi, have you gone crazy? I took out my phone and snapped photos of the glass cabinet full of Hermes bags. Just kidding. Don't get mad, sis. As I spoke, I carefully found the right angle, making sure every bag in the cabinet was captured in the frame. My voice remained calm, but my hands were shaking so much I nearly dropped the phone. Who reacts to a joke like that? I forced a smile. I've never seen anyone so generous. Let me take a few as souvenirs. Is that not okay? Whatever you want. She replied indifferently. Doesn't Han Ye-shen at your house buy them for you? The company you two run isn't doing badly, right? They're so expensive. Who would dare buy them? I laughed casually to brush it off. Oh, you're right about that. Then I lowered my head. This time I didn't misread. When she lowered her head, a sweet, unmistakable smile flashed at the corner of her mouth. It felt like an invisible hand was squeezing my heart tight. I didn't dare think any further, but every detail before my eyes, Xia Qingyi's unusual attitude, and the intuition I couldn't suppress, all of them were reminding me of one thing. As soon as I lifted the final curtain, the truth would be laid bare before me, forcing me to face it. Han Xian, we're going home. I'm not going. If mom wants to go, she can go by herself. Han Xian, my voice was already showing clear anger. He immediately stood up and ran to hide behind Xia Qingyi's back. He hugged her arm tightly and said, why do I have to listen to everything mom says? She's always stopping me from doing things, and isn't gentle at all. Why isn't Aunt Qingyi my mom instead of you being my mom? The childish voice of the little boy at this moment sounded like sharp knives stabbing straight into my heart. I reached out to pull him away, but Xia Qingyi was faster, stepping in front of me. Her voice remained gentle as before. Qingyi, why are you arguing with a child? Han Xian hid behind her, his eyes looking at me with disgust and annoyance. My heart turned ice cold to the core. In the end, I couldn't even remember how I left Xia Qingyi's apartment. When I got back home, I felt as if my soul had been drained. My heart was shattered into pieces. But I couldn't hide or escape. I couldn't keep living like a fool. Han Ye-shen could have an affair with anyone. But why did it have to be Xia? I downloaded a few banking apps that he often used. In a betrayed marriage, any woman would turn into a Sherlock Holmes. Messages could be deleted, WeChat receipts could be deleted, but bank transaction details couldn't. He hated hassle. Those bank cards had been used for many years, even downloading the apps, registering, and logging in had been done by me personally. Later, he felt the banking apps cluttered his phone screen, so he deleted them all. I logged into those accounts and quickly saw the transaction details. The Hermes handbags in my sister's cabinet, all of them had answers here. In that moment, all the strength drained from my body, I collapsed onto the sofa. It was indeed her. How could they dare do this? I lay in bed for a whole day and night. Auntie Chu, the housekeeper, saw that my condition wasn't right and worriedly called my sister. My mother was traveling elsewhere, and my husband was still on a business trip and hadn't returned. Shortly after arriving, she brought in a bowl of vegetable porridge from the kitchen, placed it by the bed, and asked worriedly, "Qingyi, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell somewhere?" I didn't answer, only staring fixedly at her. My gaze gradually made her uncomfortable. She touched her face and asked in slight surprise, "Is there something on my face?" I stood up, walked straight to her, and slapped her hard. Slap. She looked at me in a daze. I continued with 2 more slaps. Her cheeks swelled up quickly, and a trace of blood seeped from the corner of her mouth. "Xia Qingyi, why? Why did it have to be you? What did I ever do wrong to you? Do you even have a conscience, Xia?" I nearly lost control, grabbing her arm tightly as I bombarded her with questions. She only showed a fleeting flash of guilt for a very brief moment. Then she touched her slapped cheek, raised her head, and looked straight at me without retreating. "So you finally know." Her voice suddenly turned hoarse. "I'm about to go crazy too. I've endured this secret life for too long. I even waited for the day you came to pick up your son, hoping you'd realize everything sooner." She looked at me, every word clear. "Xia Qingyi, feelings can't be forced. Do you understand? Feelings can't be forced, can they?" Even at this point, she could still say such shameless words. "How many more slaps do you want before it's enough?" She looked at me, her voice slow. "After all, I'm your sister. Do you still remember you're my sister?" I looked straight at her, my voice hoarse. "How have I treated you, and how have you treated me? I dropped out at 15 to work and earn money to support your studies. Is this how you repay me?" "Nuff." Xia cut me off, her face turning cold. "I've heard relatives mention that story countless times. Back then, did anyone hold a knife to your throat? You chose it voluntarily. Understand, it was your choice. Don't blame others, voluntarily. Back then, my father went far away for work, had an affair, and eventually ran off with another woman. My mother raised the 2 of us alone. Xia wasn't good at studying but loved painting. The family was so poor we had no money for her lessons. She cried and said, 'If I can't study painting, life has no meaning for me. I'd rather die.' My mother knelt before me, begging me to save her, begging me to think of the family. At that time I was too young, too naive. The sense of responsibility and guilt weighed on my shoulders, making me step back bit by bit until I personally gave up my own path. I once thought they were everything to me, my family, my only relatives in the world. Just a few comforting words from them made me leave school, drop my studies, and enter a sewing workshop to work and support the whole family. For 5 whole years, besides the bare minimum for living, I sent almost all my money home. Back then, Xia had held my hand and said she would always remember my sacrifice. She said after graduating, she would work and support me to return to school. But what was the result? Her desires grew bigger and bigger. Every time I asked, she told me to wait a little longer, and then a little longer. After university, she wanted a master's degree. After the master's, she wanted to study abroad. And the promise to support me returning to school gradually became an empty word. Yet now she could stand before me and calmly say, "It was all voluntary on your part. No one forced you." The anger in my heart surged with nowhere to vent. I yanked my hand from hers, turned, grabbed the small lamp on the bedside table, and smashed it straight at her head. The thin glass lampshade instantly shattered. Fresh blood flowed down, and the pungent smell of blood quickly spread throughout the room. "Xia Qingyi, have you gone mad?" She clutched her head and looked at me with eyes full of shock. I didn't reply. I picked up the remaining lamp and smashed it toward her again. This time she dodged in time, but her arm still took a hit. She screamed in pain. She tried to raise her hand to fight back, but Auntie Chu hurriedly rushed over to separate us. Taking the chance, I snatched her handbag. My voice choked as I asked Auntie Chu to pull her out of the room. Auntie Chu seemed to have guessed something. She pretended not to see my actions, pulling Xia Ro-Yun out while advising, Miss Ru-Yun, Qingyi is pregnant, you can't let her get hurt. Whatever it is, talk it out slowly. So she can hurt me. What did you say to make her this agitated? I quickly locked the bedroom door, temporarily blocking the sounds from outside. My hands trembled as I tried to unlock Xia Ro-Yun's phone. Han Ye-shen had erased all traces, but I guessed she hadn't. Xia Ro-Yun's memory wasn't good. For many years her password had always been a birthday or phone number. Perhaps luck was on my side this time. I only tried twice, with her birthday and Han Ye-shen's, and it unlocked. Dense lines of messages appeared on the screen, each word cutting straight into my self-respect. I scrolled through them one by one. The more I read, the harder it became to breathe. It turned out they had once been a couple. Xia Ro-Yun had even aborted a child for him, damaging her body so badly that she could never have children afterward. She said she had thought of him, afraid his future would be affected, so she proactively introduced me to him. But now she regretted it. As she grew older and loneliness set in, she began craving a complete family. So what was I? And what about Han Ye-shen? Did he really accept all this? He felt guilty toward Xia Ro-Yun. That's why when she came back, he desperately tried to make it up to her. The two of them reminisced about the past right under my nose, entangled endlessly, while I was so foolish I didn't know a thing. Among the messages, one segment exactly a week before my birthday caught my special attention. That day, I had scheduled a prenatal checkup in advance. Han Ye-shen said there was unfinished work at the company. I understood and told him to handle it first while I went to the hospital alone. In truth, I had already shown signs of bleeding then, but I still habitually put myself last, because I always thought we were a family, a single unit. His work was also for this family. But what was the result? That day he was at Xia Ro-Yun's house, inseparable from her. Afterward, he even messaged asking if she had taken her medicine. Xia Ro-Yun replied with one sentence. Don't you know whether I need to take medicine or not? Right after, he hurriedly went to buy handbags and jewelry to appease her. If things continued like this, Han Ye-shen would sooner or later become a super VP at Hermes. The gray handbag I once thought was extravagant would not even qualify for the smallest corner in Xia Ro-Yun's cabinet. Because he wanted to give her the best of everything. Because in his eyes, she deserved all the most expensive and finest things. And what about me? Did I deserve to be discarded, trampled, deceived, and have my entire life ruined? I curled up on the floor. It turned out all the happiness I once believed in, all those peaceful years I had trusted, were nothing but an illusory dream. My tears had nearly run dry, but reason still reminded me to preserve these pieces of evidence. I took screenshots, recorded videos one by one, reviewing those nauseating dialogues of theirs again and again. My heart was torn apart once more with each viewing. Outside, Xia Ro-Yun grew more and more impatient. She pounded frantically on the door, demanding I return her phone and accusing me of violating her privacy. At first Auntie Chu tried to pull her away, but later, worried about me, she stood close to the door and spoke gently. Qingyi, don't do anything reckless. Whatever happens, we can get through it together. Don't hurt yourself. I wanted to answer, but even opening my mouth left me utterly drained. My voice lodged in my throat. It took a long while before I could force out a hoarse reply. Auntie Chu, I won't do anything reckless. I'm fine. Can you give me a moment alone? All right. Auntie won't push you. Auntie Chu's voice outside was careful and soft. I've made chicken soup and hot porridge. Whenever you need it, just say the word and I'll bring it right up, okay? How ironic. Right now, the person who truly cared about me was Auntie Chu, a woman with no blood relation to me at all. After gathering enough evidence, I was completely exhausted. I lay stretched out on the floor, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling as silent tears kept sliding down. I hated them, but I hated myself even more. How could I have been so stupid, so blind that it took years to see the truth? I don't know how much time passed before Han Xian's crying suddenly echoed from outside. Mommy, I fell off the horse today. My leg hurts so much. Can Mommy come out and look at it? A mother's instinct made me react instantly. I quickly wiped my tears and rushed to open the door. But the moment the door swung open, the boy nimbly dodged to the side. He snatched Xia Ro-Yun's phone and handbag, then scampered over to her like a little bird, happily handing them to her. Aunt Ro-Yun, I got them for you. I stood frozen in place. Right in front of me, the two of them looked as close as mother and son. Xia Ro-Yun glanced at me, her eyes brimming with open provocation. Han Xian wrapped his arms tightly around her waist, staring at me with pure hatred. A deafening explosion seemed to go off inside my head. Blood rushed to my brain, and I completely lost control. I strode forward, grabbed a fistful of Xia Royun's hair, and slapped her hard again. You're really proud of yourself, aren't you? How low can you sink? Stealing someone else's husband wasn't enough. You want to steal my son too? Before I could finish the sentence, I was shoved violently. My whole body crashed to the floor, my belly slamming into the edge of the cabinet. A brutal wave of pain exploded from my abdomen and spread through every limb. I curled in on myself, shaking uncontrollably. But nothing hurt more than my already shattered heart. The person who had just pushed me down was my own flesh and blood son, the child I had raised single-handedly. He stood in front of Xia Royun like a loyal guard, shouting at me in fury. I won't let mommy hurt Aunt Royun. Enduring the agony in my belly, I lifted my head and asked in a trembling voice, Mommy will definitely touch her. Hanxian, what exactly are you planning to do to mommy? My heart ached to its limit. If mommy dares to hurt her, I'll fight mommy with everything I have. In this world, only Aunt Royun is the gentlest to me. With that, he snatched up the riding crop and whipped it straight toward me. In that instant, I felt as if I had already died. The child I had carried for 10 months, nearly dying to give birth to, was now raising a whip against me for the sake of the woman who had invaded our family. That very riding crop was the one I had spent an entire afternoon choosing with him, along with a small red saddle. He had once told me he wanted to learn horseback riding, because he was jealous of a boy in the riding club who owned a beautiful, majestic chestnut horse. But the club only had one, and he was still too small for a full-sized mount. So I had arranged for a gentle chestnut foal to be shipped all the way from Inner Mongolia, just to surprise him on his 8th birthday. That day, he had hugged me tight, eyes sparkling. Mummy, I love you so much. No one in the world is better to me than you. In the end, the whip never landed on my body. Auntie Chu had rushed forward in time to stop it, yet it had already lashed straight across my heart, collapsing every last ounce of strength I had left. Everything went black before my eyes. I collapsed, and a hot stream flowed down my thighs. The whip slipped from Hanxian's hand and clattered to the floor. The boy burst into loud sobs. I didn't want it to be like this. Mommy hurt Aunt Royun first. Mommy was wrong first. Auntie Chu hurriedly pulled me into her arms, hands trembling. Qingyi, are you okay? Don't scare me like this, my poor child. Call an ambulance. Call 120. She shouted at Xia Royun. Xia Royun panicked, frantically searching everywhere but failing to find her phone. Finally, Auntie Chu couldn't stand it anymore. She gently set me down and made the call herself. The pain surged violently. Then I seemed to lose all sensation, my body hollow as if every drop of energy had been drained. My hearing became strangely sharp. I could hear every gust of wind howling outside the house. Why was it so cold today? Why was this winter so freezing? When we reached the hospital, the baby could not be saved. I didn't even know how to describe what I felt. Perhaps for that child, it was also a kind of release. I lay motionless on the hospital bed with only Auntie Chu beside me. She gently wiped the sweat from my forehead, eyes red-rimmed, trying to comfort me in a soothing voice. Qingyi, life is long. No matter how hard things get, they will pass. Don't corner yourself, child. Before long, the nurse brought the medicine. The fetus was not yet 3 months old, so they could only use medication. If it didn't clear completely, they would still have to perform a D&C later. After taking the medicine all day, my body began reacting violently. Nausea, vomiting, dizziness, total exhaustion. I couldn't sleep and had no strength left. Auntie Chu kept bringing fresh hot porridge. I forced myself to swallow a few spoonfuls, but the soft rice felt like thorns in my throat. No matter what, I couldn't keep it down. Everything came right back up. This continued until evening, when my belly started contracting in fierce waves. The pain was so intense that tears poured out nonstop. Auntie Chu tried to prepare a hot water bottle to ease the cramps, but the nurse hurriedly stopped her, afraid the heat would cause even heavier bleeding. I lay drenched in sweat, curled weakly on the bed. The contractions came one after another, each one feeling like a mad snake thrashing wildly inside me, as if some cruel force was stretching and twisting every fiber of my flesh. In the end, there was no other choice. The doctor had to give me a painkiller injection. For a few brief minutes I thought I had escaped the torment, but the pain crashed back even harder. It repeated like that until nearly dawn. Auntie Chu helped me to the bathroom, and finally it was over. In that moment, I felt my heart had been emptied to its very core. Right then, from the room next door came the loud cry of a newborn baby. I staggered and nearly fell. Auntie Chu quickly caught me, her nose stinging with tears. I couldn't hold back any longer. I buried my head against her shoulder and broke into violent sobs. My child, if not for this accident, should have come into this world too, instead of turning into nothing but a pool of torn flesh and blood. I drifted into a hazy sleep. When I woke, Auntie Chu had warmed some porridge and placed it beside me. There was a message on my phone from Han Yishen. The same familiar questions every day. Have you eaten? Is your belly uncomfortable? It seemed he still didn't know the baby was gone. I had already told Auntie Chu not to inform him. I was afraid that if I saw him right now, I wouldn't be able to stop myself from dragging him down into the abyss with me. I was exhausted beyond my limit. I didn't even have the strength left to curse him. I turned off the phone. After 3 days in the hospital, Auntie Chu and I returned home. At noon, Auntie Chu went out to buy ingredients for chicken porridge. I lay on the sofa, my gaze unconsciously drifting to the spot where I had fallen that day. The corner of the cabinet my belly had struck. I stood there in a daze, completely hollow, until the front door suddenly opened. A blast of cold wind cut straight to the bone, making me shiver involuntarily. I turned my head. Han Yishen stood in the doorway, eyes bloodshot, walking toward me step by step. I stood up and looked at him coldly. Qingyi. He stumbled over the words, wanting to explain something. I raised my hand and slapped him hard across the face. He didn't dodge. I'm sorry. I really never expected things to turn out like this. I laughed coldly. You never expected it. You never expected it, yet you could still crawl into bed with Xia Qingyi. He choked on his words. I stared straight at him. Do you even know who she is? Han Yishen. Oh, that's right. From the moment you planned to approach me, you already knew exactly what relationship I had with her, didn't you? In your eyes, what am I? An incurable fool. Han Yishen shook his head urgently, voice hoarse. Qingyi, it's not like that. It's not what you think. I just felt guilty toward her. I only wanted to use what little I have to make it up to her. I laughed coldly again. Make it up to her. By dirtying yourself like this, by lowering yourself beside someone like me just to elevate your so-called noble love. He furrowed his brows tightly, panic flashing in his eyes as he looked at me. But all I felt was nausea. Xia Qingyi, it's not like that. It really isn't. Give me a chance. Listen to my explanation. He frantically grabbed my hand. I struggled wildly, screaming, don't touch me. I already told you not to touch me. Can't you hear? No, I won't let go. His voice turned hoarse. As long as you vent your anger, you can even kill me if you want. With that, he wrapped his arms around me tightly from behind. His hot tears fell onto my neck. I felt nothing but utter disgust. I used every ounce of strength to thrash, but he was a man after all, and I was like a cornered animal he refused to release. In the end, I lowered my head and bit down hard on the arm exposed beneath his sweater sleeve until I tasted blood. The pain forced him to let go. I lunged for the coffee table, snatched the fruit knife, and pointed it straight ahead. He looked a little panicked. Qingyi, if you're angry, you can kill me today. He thought I wouldn't dare, but in that split second, I really was ready to pay any price. Just then, the front door opened unexpectedly. Auntie Chu had returned, and she wasn't alone. Beside her was Qin Suyan, my best friend of many years. She was studying for an advanced degree in Switzerland. I had never told her about any of this, afraid it would affect her studies. Auntie Chu must have contacted her. He stood not far away, one hand clutching his wound, while I still gripped the knife tightly. A cold gust of wind blew in, clearing my mind for a moment. Suyan walked toward me slowly, each step careful. Her voice softened, as if coaxing a child. Qingyi, I'm back. I'm here now. I won't let anyone hurt you again. She looked into my eyes and said gently, Qingyi, give me the knife, okay? That bastard has already destroyed half your life. Don't let him destroy the rest too, alright? Her voice cracked, tears spilling over. She slowly pried the knife from my fingers. All the strength left my body. My mind went blank and I collapsed. She quickly tossed the knife aside, draped her cashmere sweater over me, and pulled me into a tight embrace. Then she turned her head, eyes icy as she glared at him. Get out of here right now. Do you want to stay and pressure her to death? He stood rooted to the spot. He seemed to want to say something, but under her cold stare, he ultimately couldn't utter a word. He simply clutched his wound and silently left the house. Auntie Chu, afraid something might really happen to him, called an ambulance. I curled up in my friend's arms. She held me tightly, tears falling nonstop. I could no longer stay in that house. Every trace of the life our family of 3 once shared had now become knives stabbing straight into my heart, reminding me how stupid and blind I had been all these years. Besides, he had a key. He could return anytime. Just seeing him made me want to tear him apart piece by piece, so that I could recover in peace. The two of them quickly tidied up Suyan's old apartment. We moved there. During this time, he called me countless times, but I never picked up. In the end, he switched to having Han Xian call. The boy's voice was full of reluctance. Dad told me to call. If Mom doesn't hurt Aunt Ro Yun. I hung up immediately and blocked the number. Perhaps there really was no mother-son bond left between us. If that was the case, there was no need to force it anymore. After my body gradually recovered, Qin Suyan helped me contact a well-known local divorce lawyer. With their assistance, I quickly filed the papers. Luckily, I had already collected plenty of evidence, so the lawsuit wasn't too difficult. The moment he received the summons, Han Yeshen waited downstairs at Qin Suyan's building all day, looking like a lost soul. When I went down with Auntie Chu to buy groceries, we ran into him by chance. He looked at me, eyes full of pain. Qingyi, do you really want to divorce me? If not, then what? I answered coldly. Should I keep living with someone who disgusts me? He froze, voice hoarse. You hate me that much. So much that you filed for divorce without even saying a word to me first. Have we really become this estranged? I laughed coldly, voice dripping with mockery. What? Do I still need your permission? This marriage is ending, and I won't let you and her take a single cent of benefit. Benefit. He staggered back 2 steps as if struck hard, nearly falling. You think I want to take advantage of you? You think I'm that kind of person? I curled my lips slightly. Oh, you're not. If that's the case, then sign the agreement renouncing all movable and immovable assets. Aren't you so fond of making things up to people? Then make it up to me. Or in your eyes, only Xia Ro Yun deserves compensation. I stepped closer to him, every word laced with sarcasm. Qingyi, you really only want money. That's right. I looked straight at him. I need money very badly right now. Do you dare give it? He stayed silent for a moment, then asked again, still unwilling to let go. You hate me that much. You don't even want Han Xian anymore. He's your biological son. My biological son. I laughed. You still remember that? Then take another look. Does he still see me as his mother? Right now, who does he consider his mother? That's your masterpiece. Are you satisfied yet? I looked at him mockingly. What? Still not satisfied? Still want to keep dragging this out? Keep acting. But I don't have time to play with you. If you're reluctant to part with that money, just say it outright. Stop crying and pretending to be in pain. Xia Qingyi. He placed his hand over the bite wound I had left and smiled bitterly. If you really want it, I'll give it to you. But I still want to say one last thing. These 9 years weren't what you think. If I didn't love someone, how could I have stayed with her for 9 years? I laughed coldly. Is that so? Fine, I believe you. I believe your conscience hasn't been completely destroyed yet. I believe you still have a shred of humanity left. I also believe you're truly sincere. I looked at him, voice calm. My lawyer has already prepared the asset renunciation papers. Sign them whenever you're free. Once you sign, we're done. Qingyi, do you really have to be so heartless? Heartless. I laughed. Wasn't this exactly what you promised? Why is it suddenly me who's heartless? Oh right, I forgot. You've always been the type who says one thing and does another, never keeping your word. Fine, I don't want to waste any more time. See you in court. I lost patience and pulled Auntie Chu along, turning to leave. All right. His voice sounded from behind. If that's what you want, I'll sign right now. Han Yeshen grabbed my arm. Fine. Then let's go straight to the lawyer's office. I didn't give him any chance to hesitate. I immediately drove him to the lawyer's office. Everything there had long been prepared by Qin Suyan and my lawyer to handle the legal matters of the divorce. On the way, Han Yeshen's phone rang. It was Xia Ro Yun. She asked where he was. Han Yeshen sat beside me, looking utterly hopeless, and answered hoarsely, I'm going to make amends. I'm going to return everything to her. On the other end, Xia Ro Yun nearly screamed. Don't do anything stupid. Xia Qingyi isn't as simple as you think. Don't let her provoke you. You and Han Xian still have to live. Han Yeshen, think carefully. I kept driving, not saying a word. How confident she was. She already treated my son as her own, but unfortunately she might not live long enough to claim him. After that call, Han Yeshen didn't speak again. This time I didn't bring Auntie Chu, she had gone home to cook. In the car, only the two of us remained. There had been countless times we sat like this before. Sometimes he drove, sometimes I did. Back then we would talk about the most ordinary things, how to control company costs, whether the new order could be signed, how to manage employees, even Han Xian's studies. Those things had once blended naturally into our lives. We were still young then, hearts full of hope, We always believed that as long as the two of us worked hard together, the road ahead would stay wide open forever. But who could have guessed that behind those warm dreams hid something so filthy it made people sick? The car stopped at a red light. I stared straight ahead, voice cold. Han Ye-shen, have you thought it through? Don't wait until we get there and then go back on your word. Everyone's time is precious. He leaned his head against the seat, closed his eyes warily. I already said it. If you want it, I'll give it to you. I didn't reply. I simply stepped on the gas and drove straight to the lawyer's office. In the 10 years we had known each other, Han Ye-shen had always been a proud man. So his agreement to these terms didn't surprise me too much. But a promise was one thing. Whether he would actually follow through was another. I just wanted him to see with his own eyes that the last shred of his pride was nothing but a useless, fake curtain. At the lawyer's office, everything had been arranged in advance according to Suoyan's instructions. The agreement lay right on the table. He had only listened to the lawyer explain a few sentences when the door was suddenly shoved open with force. My sister burst in, panting. Han Ye-shen, if you sign, what will happen to me and Han Xian? I stood to the side with my arms crossed, laughing coldly. Still planning to sign. This isn't a stage. If you two want to perform, go home and continue your act. Qingyi, do you really have to talk like that? He frowned, seemingly about to launch into some touching explanation. Little Ro Yun is only worried about me and Han Xian. I cut him off impatiently. I know how deep your feelings are, but I really have no interest in watching anymore. If you're not signing, then leave. We'll meet in court. Just don't perform this same disgusting drama again next time. Qingyi, do you think I care about any of this? He finished speaking, picked up the pen, and was about to sign when she immediately grabbed his arm. Han Ye-shen, calm down. She turned to look at me, eyes full of contempt. Xia Qingyi was born loving money. Ever since she was little, she's valued money above everything. She'd do anything for money. Right now she's just pretending to be noble. I didn't react at all, simply watching coldly. But Qin Suyan couldn't hold back any longer. She stood up at once, her voice icy and sharp. How disgusting. A bloodsucker, a parasitic leech, dares to call the person who raised her pretending to be noble. If Qingyi hadn't been stupid enough to sacrifice for you back then, a lazy good for nothing like you would never have had the chance to stand here, playing the mistress and talking about deep love. You'd probably be selling your body by now. Xia Ro Yun immediately lunged forward to hit her, but I swiftly caught her wrist, stopping her from advancing even half a step. Qin Suyan still didn't stop, her voice grew colder. What? Did I hit a sore spot? A few words and you can't stand it already? Are you scared? You should understand clearly. That money was earned by someone else's blood and sweat, or have you been freeloading for so long that you can't change your ways? So short of cash, so terrified. Why don't you go sell yourself right now? It's still not too late. After all, you and that scumbag are already selling yourselves anyway. Selling once is selling twice is still selling. Since you're already a whore, stop pretending to build a shrine for yourself. You. Xia Ro Yun trembled with rage. I'm going to rip that mouth of yours apart. She charged furiously, but Qin Suyan was faster. She grabbed Xia Ro Yun's hair and slapped her hard. Rip whose mouth apart, you filthy woman? Who do you think you can act arrogant toward? Finally Han Ye-shen couldn't endure it anymore. He stood up, pulled Xia Ro Yun behind him, and looked at me. Xia Qingyi, can't you control your friend? Can she say anything more disgusting than that? I laughed coldly. You two did something even more disgusting and didn't feel sick. Why should you be afraid of someone cursing you? I think everything little Yan said was right. You two really are a match made in heaven. If you don't want to sign, just say it outright. No need for this performance. At that moment, Lawyer Shen, the one Qin Suyan had introduced, immediately stepped forward to mediate. Mrs. Xia, litigation is very troublesome. Since Mr. Han wants a peaceful resolution, why don't both sides compromise a little? The previous agreement was indeed a bit harsh. He turned to Han Ye-shen. But Mr. Han, you also know Mrs. Xia has suffered greatly. I can see you genuinely want to compensate her. How about this? Here's a different agreement that leaves you with a portion of assets and shares. I sat down warily in the chair, cutting the lawyer off. Today he only came here to put on a show. He won't sign. We'll just prepare to meet in court. The moment I finished speaking, Han Ye-shen picked up the agreement from the table. He flipped through a few pages, eyes scanning each line quickly. Ignoring Xia Ro Yun's attempts to stop him, he took the pen and signed his name. Both copies of the agreement were signed. From beginning to end, I didn't say another word. Han Ye-shen dragged Xia Ro-yun out of the room. Before stepping out the door, he turned back to look at me, his voice hoarse. Qingyi, whether you believe it or not, I still hope you live well. I opened my eyes and watched their retreating figures with icy detachment. Too bad, I only hope the two of you lose everything, fall into complete ruin and live a life worse than death. Qin Suyan gripped my hand tightly and spoke softly, good thing that scumbag is emotionally unstable right now. Your approach actually worked. In truth, from the very beginning, we never expected Han Ye-shen to sign that first agreement. The one we truly wanted him to sign was the second version. One that benefited me greatly but didn't push him completely into a dead end. The kind of condition he could still accept. Lawyer Shen had explained it to us clearly beforehand. Because infidelity on the husband's part was involved, it was very difficult for the court to award the wife all the assets. When dividing marital property, the law usually followed the principle of relatively fair division. Although infidelity violated the duty of marital fidelity, in most cases it didn't directly result in one party completely losing their right to asset division. That's why I handled it according to Han Ye-shen's personality. He loved maintaining a noble image, and especially enjoyed putting on performances. Not long after the divorce agreement was signed, photos of Xia Ro-yun and Han Ye-shen holding hands in public began circulating online. They really couldn't wait any longer. The divorce wasn't even finalized yet. Han Zion was even in some of the pictures. Xia Ro-yun had quite a following online. She had built an image as a refined, slow, living goddess who frequently shared her elegant lifestyle. She had quite a few fans. In addition, she carried titles like Returned Overseas Female Artist and Artistic Goddess. For a while, the comments under that video turned into complete chaos. Some people said that Goddess Ro-yun had secretly married a wealthy man long ago, and even had a child with him. Others speculated that the child who called her Mom Ro-yun was probably not her biological son but the man's child from a previous relationship. Immediately, her fans rushed to defend their idol. They collectively attacked the accounts of anyone who left suspicious comments. So what if she's divorced? Is she eating your rice? Have you ever seen a child so close to a stepmother? It must be because Ro-yun is too kind-hearted that the child is so attached to her. The commenter was attacked so badly they had to delete their account. But it didn't take long before public opinion began to shift. A blogger suddenly dropped the bombshell that Xia Ro-yun had interfered in her own sister's marriage. Not only that, she had even stolen her sister's child. In an instant, the tide of public opinion completely turned. The tangled story between the three of us quickly became a hot topic discussed everywhere. At that time, I still hadn't spoken out, letting things brew slowly. After all, the pain of having your flesh cut away hurts the most, doesn't it? The scattered information being released was, of course, guided by both me and Qin Suyan. Until my mother finally found me. She had returned from her trip and suddenly remembered she still had a daughter. The moment she saw me, she burst into tears. Xia Qingyi, your sister didn't want things to turn out like this. Hasn't he already compensated you with a lot of money? Forced relationships bring no happiness. Just let go. Mom, have you gone senile? I've already divorced Han Ye-shen. I already stepped aside for your precious daughter. What more do you want me to let go of? But now Ro-yun is being cursed online like this. Don't you feel any pity? I do feel pity. In fact, I'm very happy. Xia Qingyi, do you really have to be like this? Putting all the blame on your sister won't change anything. Even if you have a good education and good looks, if Han Ye-shen didn't cheat with your sister, he would have cheated with someone else sooner or later. Do you have to drive everyone into a corner before you're satisfied? I gave birth to you. Can't you speak up for your sister? As she spoke, she knelt down in front of me. I looked down at her tear-stained face, my voice calm yet freezing cold. Eyes kneeling that impressive. If kneeling could make it so I never had a mother or sister in this life, I would kneel before the gods every single day. Xia Qingyi you. She looked at me with disbelief, pain flashing across her face as if deeply wounded. Qingyi, I'm your mother. I had no other choice. Do you expect me to just watch your sister die? I stared at her, my gaze ice, cold to the extreme. Whose mother are you? Are you really my mother? But do you even believe that yourself? From beginning to end, there has only ever been one daughter in your heart, Xia Ro-yun. You were afraid she would die, but you weren't afraid I would die. If I died, it wouldn't matter, right? I smiled faintly. You still dare mention my education? Do you even have the face to talk about it? Why did I have to drop out of school? Don't you know? Or have you forgotten? Back then you knelt just like this, acting so shamelessly, using so-called morality to tie me down and force me to sacrifice my future so your precious daughter could pursue her dream of painting. You used my entire life as a stepping stone for her to climb up, trampling on my back step by step, feeding on my blood and flesh to survive. And now you dare call me cold-blooded? I questioned her word by word, my voice choking with emotion. Qingyi, are you still blaming Mom even now? She trembled as she spoke. What else could I do? What other choice did I have? The palm and the back of the hand are both flesh. Do you think I wanted things to turn out this way? You're a mother now too. Can't you understand me? I laughed mockingly. The palm and the back of the hand are both flesh. Huh? Mom, for some people favoritism means the palm has more flesh while the back has less. But you're different. You're like someone with a deformity. The back of your hand is all bones and tendons, while all the flesh is concentrated in the palm. My mother stammered for a long time, unable to form a complete sentence. No other way. I asked coldly, you're a grown woman, and you couldn't find any other solution, yet you forced a 15-year-old student to find one. You simply took advantage of my love, respect, and pity for you. You could have gone out to work. You were just afraid. Afraid of the outside world, afraid of facing hardship. So you pushed me forward to shield you from everything. I smiled, but my voice grew hoarse. Now that I have a child of my own, I finally understand one thing. You never loved me. You're not even worthy of being my mother. Then what should I do now? She suddenly burst into tears, her voice almost desperate. Will you only be satisfied if I die? As long as I die, you'll forgive everyone, right? With that, she suddenly rushed toward the window. The room was on the 10th floor. If she jumped, there would be no survival. But I didn't stop her. I simply sat on the sofa and watched coldly. She dragged a chair over to the window and climbed on top of it. She cried and wailed for a long time, but in the end, she never jumped. Then she turned around and accused me. Are you really this vicious? You want to watch your own mother die? I walked toward her step by step. I grabbed her arm tightly and screamed almost maniacally. Jump. Why won't you jump? Why did you have to be my mother? If you only love Xia Qingyi, then why did you give birth to me? You blame me for not being able to keep a husband for you. Blame me for not being a son. Then why don't you blame yourself for clinging so pathetically to a man like that? Xia Qingyi. She climbed down from the chair, trembling with both fear and rage. I'm your mother. How can you treat me like this? Aren't you afraid of going to hell? I laughed coldly. Hell? Ever since I crawled out of your womb, I've already been living in hell. I looked straight at her. You've known about Xia Qingyi and Han Yishen for a long time, haven't you? You also knew I lost my child because of them, right? But you only showed up when your precious daughter was exposed online and being cursed by everyone. So tell me, what am I in your eyes? She was speechless for a moment before snapping back. Now you're blaming me. Did I make you like this? I shook my head. I don't blame you. I hate you. I hate you so much I wish I could skin you and them alive right this second. From now on, never come looking for me again. Starting today, I no longer consider you my mother. I won't give you a single cent, and I won't help you with anything. After I finished speaking, I called the building security to escort her out. She kept muttering nonstop, we're still blood-related. Sisters are connected even if bones are broken. I didn't respond. I simply stood there and watched coldly as she was taken away. My heart no longer felt even the slightest emotion. Once the scandal had spread long enough, I went online and exposed Xia Qingyi's true identity. How she had interfered in her sister's marriage, how she had cheated on her college entrance exam, and many other things. At the time, Xia Qingyi wasn't just a slow, living goddess. She was also a lecturer at a university. Qin Su Yan and I had analyzed it carefully. These revelations could destroy her online presence, but she could still rely on her degree and decent job. Thinking about this, I couldn't eat or sleep peacefully. My life had been destroyed to this extent. On what grounds should the people who ruined me get to live comfortably? I returned to the small village where we once lived and the old school from back then. Many images flashed through my mind, especially the scene of me foolishly being tricked into dropping out to work in a factory. The pain and rage felt like knives stabbing deep into my heart. Then I suddenly remembered an old incident. In my second year working at the sewing workshop, my mother had come to me asking for a huge sum of money. At the time, I gave her everything I had. But she still wasn't satisfied. She continued threatening me with her life, even swallowing pills and needing her stomach pumped to survive. With no other choice, I ran around borrowing money from everyone to gather enough to give her. Only later did I learn that money had been used to buy a fake diploma for Xia Qingyi. I knew better than anyone what her actual academic performance was like. Back then I was overwhelmed with too many other things, so I only felt annoyed and didn't think too deeply about it. But now, looking back, her entire life seemed to be built on nothing but lies and fraud. I didn't just expose her true identity. I also posted all the evidence I had collected. Xia Qingyi couldn't withstand the wave of online condemnation. She deleted all her personal accounts. Soon after, the university where she worked issued an official notice terminating her employment. One day, I received a message from an unknown number. "Are you satisfied now, Xia Qingyi? But let me tell you, even without all this, I still would have taken everything from you. I'm about to marry Han Shen. And your son now calls me mom every single day. No matter how crazy you go, you can't change anything. All of it. If those things never truly belonged to me in the first place, then let them all be destroyed together." I returned to work. I was at the company almost every day. The divorce certificate arrived 2 weeks after I exposed Xia Qingyi's true identity. Han Shen came looking for me once. He asked if I felt happy watching him and her get destroyed like this. I looked at him and laughed coldly. How could I be happy when you're still living so freely? I can only be happy when you're all living a life worse than death. Right now I can't be happy, because you're still alive. Han Shen froze. For the first time, fear appeared in his eyes. He took 2 steps back and hurriedly left. With such weak mental fortitude, he still dared to do something so cruel. Didn't he know that the person who shared his pillow understood best how to bring him to his knees? Han Shen had always been very proud, but under my deliberate guidance, people throughout the company began looking at him with contempt. I even intentionally leaked some of his real information online. Once when he drove to the company, someone threw rotten eggs at his car. On his desk, someone had written in bright red marker, "Cheaters and traitors will never have a good ending." He was furious and tried to find who did it, but the security cameras happened to malfunction at exactly the right time. Not only that, the company shares that had once been split equally between us. I had secretly made my move long ago. A key technician in the company had received a scholarship from me while she was still studying. Because I never got to finish my own education, I didn't want to see others forced to drop out due to financial hardship. After everything happened, she sold all her shares to me at a very low price because she wanted to continue her studies. We reached an agreement quickly. Combined with the fact that Han Shen and Xia Qingyi's reputations were now ruined, no one at company meetings paid any attention to his words. Everything he said was opposed. He couldn't endure it any longer and had no choice but to sell his shares at below market value. But Xia Qingyi had grown accustomed to luxury and waste for many years. It was easy to go from simple to extravagant, but going from extravagant back to simple, how could she bear it? Not long after, Han Shen was forced to start a new business on his own. But with information so transparent these days, starting a business wasn't easy. Moreover, he was only good at technical work. Most of the business tactics and connections had been handled by me in the past. Back then, to find better suppliers and better clients, I had worked extra at the post office, gradually tracking down our competitors' delivery addresses. To find cheaper materials, I would drive and follow their trucks. Every day I was so busy I felt dizzy. When I returned home, he would rush over to hug me and worry. I pushed him away but saw that his eyes were red, as if he had just cried. Only then did I realize my phone had died, and he couldn't reach me. The news had reported that the road I took had suffered a landslide, due to heavy rain, and someone's car had been crushed by a boulder and fallen into the valley. At that time, he touched my face and said he would work hard, do everything to make our lives better, and told me not to push myself too much. I had to put my health and safety first. But what was the result? Our relationship had been infested with lice from the very beginning, merely covered up by a glamorous exterior like a beautiful robe. The moment I lifted it, my scalp went numb and my whole body trembled. If Han Shen wanted to start a business, of course I had to help him properly. I knew Xia Qingyi had been secretly monitoring me. Although I had blocked her, someone still sent her updates about my daily life. When that person reported it to me, I told her to pass the information to Xia Qingyi. Intense jealousy and resentment were the greatest hell in one's heart. I began frantically visiting luxury stores, shopping nonstop. The handbags and jewelry she had, I owned more of them, and more expensive ones. At the same time, I frequently flew to Dubai. I deliberately hinted at a huge upcoming contract and a major order that would definitely make a fortune. People usually only remembered the scam stories from Myanmar, thinking Dubai was a place paved with gold. But behind that glamour lay countless dangers that outsiders could hardly imagine. For an ordinary person to survive in that city was never easy. Compared to Myanmar, it was practically a paradise for scammers. Facing the endless desert, how many of those lured there could actually return? Under my sister's encouragement, Han Ye-shen finally boarded a flight to Dubai, wanting to try his luck. But what awaited him was only an abyss. He was completely scammed, losing all his money, and nearly his life. He survived, but he lost one leg. The money was gone. The love was gone too. Her sincere heart changed instantly. One early morning, she packed her things and quietly left, taking the little money left in the house. At first, he tried to hold on, but he was getting older and had lost a leg. No company wanted to hire him. In the end, he could only work as a laborer in a factory. When he wanted to find me, I had already left for Switzerland with Soyen to study. There was once a time when I thought I was someone's daughter, Han Xian's mother, and his wife. In those roles, I seemed to have forgotten one thing. Who was I really? Now I only wanted to live once for myself. Before leaving, I left Auntie Chu a large sum of money for her retirement. She had no blood relation to me, yet she had treated me far better than my own family. After arriving in Switzerland, I would occasionally receive small packages from her. Homemade food. This made both Qin Suyan and me very happy, since neither of us knew how to cook those dishes. As for Han Xian, before I left I set aside enough child support for him until he turned 18. It wasn't enough for him to live luxuriously like before, but it was enough that he wouldn't starve. I heard that not long after Han Ye-shen returned to the country, he cut off Han Zan's horseback riding lessons. But the boy refused to listen and stubbornly insisted on riding that little red horse. The horse got startled and threw him off. Just like the lie he had once spun to trick me, he actually fell off the horse and broke his arm. He somehow borrowed a phone and called me, crying and begging me to come back to see him. He said it was his grandmother and father who had told him to love and protect Xia Ro-yun, which was why he did what he did. So I suppose your mother must also step aside for your beloved Aunt Ro-yun, right? I no longer wanted to argue with Han Zan. I simply said gently, Han Zan, people always have to pay the price for what they've done. That afternoon, you used a whip to kill 2 of Mommy's children. Now isn't everything exactly as you wished? I'm no longer your mother. I hung up without caring about the choking sobs on the other end and blocked the number. After completing my studies, I began traveling around the world before returning to the country with Qin Suyan. I had sold the old company. Now we were starting over from scratch. Life was busy every day, but it was fulfilling and peaceful. Until one day, I accidentally came across a video online. In the video, a young boy was screaming and blaming his father for destroying his entire life. At first I only felt shocked. The scene of Han Zan raising the whip toward me that year flashed through my mind, and my heart still ached. It wasn't until the video was nearing its end that I clearly saw the face of the man being beaten. How ironic. It turned out to be karma after all. He was the one who had planted the seeds. He was the one who had indulged it all and guided his son to despise and humiliate me, the mother who gave birth to him. As a father, could he really stand outside of all this? Back then, before going abroad, I had returned to visit the old school where I dropped out. My literature teacher, Mr. Lin, had tried hard to stop me. He even asked sincerely whether I was quitting because of financial difficulties. If so, he was willing to help. My grades back then weren't particularly outstanding, but my literature scores were very good. Actually, my overall performance hadn't always been average. At first I could even rank in the top 5 of the class. But then my mother kept making me work, giving me endless chores every day. My grades gradually declined. She said I wasn't suited for studying and shouldn't force it. I slowly began to believe her. I really had walked out. I really had given up on continuing my education. I bought a bouquet of flowers to visit Mr. Lin. We ate together and talked about life. After the meal while walking, he suddenly said, "Child, these past years must have been very hard for you." My eyes immediately stung. I turned away to wipe my tears. When I walked him back to the school, he told me to wait downstairs. Not long after, he brought down a fountain pen. He said that even after all these years, he still remembered how elegant my handwriting used to be. Back then I had won an award in a writing competition with a fountain pen. I loved it dearly, cleaning it every day and taking careful care of it. But it broke before I dropped out of school. At the time, he saw me and always said he wanted to give me a new one, but only today did he finally give it to me. On the way back, I opened the exquisite box and took out the pen inside. Engraved on the body of the pen was a line of text: "What has passed cannot be changed, but the future can still be reached. Life is never too late at any moment." Yes, it's never too late at any moment. I used that very pen to write my first story. I wanted to use words and my own experiences to tell girls like me that first, you must learn to love yourself. Only then will you have the strength to love others. Many years later, I received news about my mother. Xia Qingyi had once again interfered in someone else's marriage. But this time, the other party wasn't easy to deal with. She was beaten until covered in blood, and then disappeared without a trace. In the past, when life was difficult, I had tried my best to support them so they could live peacefully. That was why there was still some warmth left in their mother-daughter relationship, but now everything had returned to its original state. Moreover, they had lost their blood bank me. So they began resenting and blaming each other. Xia Qingyi was never a responsible person. She quickly cut off contact with my mother, not caring whether she lived or died. My mother was old, had no one to care for her, and fell ill. In the end, she wandered the streets and was taken in by social services to a nursing home. The staff there couldn't reach Xia Qingyi, so they contacted me. They said she wanted to see me, but I refused. Still, to avoid causing extra trouble for society and the authorities, I paid all her monthly living expenses at the nursing home. Later, her condition grew worse. She wanted to see me more and more desperately, but I no longer wanted to see her even once. This continued for a long time, until one day, the nursing home staff called me and said she had begun a hunger strike. I only answered calmly, "Let her do as she wishes. This is the most I can do. As long as she's alive there, I will continue paying the monthly fees. If she dies, I will arrange for her cremation." She held on for a few more days. Finally, late one night, she drew her last breath. I arranged for someone to cremate her and brought her ashes back to our hometown for burial. Along with them, I buried half of my life. All the hatred, resentment, and pain were buried there. I only hoped that if there was a next life, we would never meet again. On the way back, the sunset covered the entire sky. A gentle breeze brushed across my cheek, as if I was gently touching my own face. Standing in front of the mirror, I looked straight at myself and said firmly, "It's okay. I can love myself. I can embrace myself. In this life, I must live for myself." In the trunk of the car were still the newly published books of mine waiting to be signed. In the end, I had finally reclaimed the girl I once was at 15.